It's Thursday, 11 o'clock, and it's time for this week's watch drop. The focus of this week is 60s and 70s tool watches. We're very fortunate that a collector in our network has dropped off some absolutely fantastic examples, particularly from Rolex and Heuer. So we'll go into those in detail today. First of all, the Milgauss 1019. It's the first time I've seen one of these in the metal, and this example is fantastic. The definition of a tool watch, these things were designed to resist magnetic forces for scientists primarily, and nowadays with silicon hairsprings, that's less of an issue that needs to be dealt with. The contrast between the red Milgauss and the red tip of the seconds hand, it just emanates that sort of sense of being a scientist back in that era. In the 70s, one of the watches that an explorer type adventurer person would go for would be this 1655. This is a straight hand example from the 70s, and the color of the dial, oranges, yellows, sort of browny blacks, a really legible watch, and absolutely something that is as relevant today as it was back 50 years ago. I don't think you can mention tool watches from this period and not mention the Rolex GMT Pepsi 1675. Of course, one of the original pilot's watches. I love this example. It's a rare Mark 2.5 dial, brilliant patina, and still has that lovely vibrant blue and red to the bezel. Really, really lovely example. We also have the modern equivalents of these watches. Now, with the use of new materials, I think it's really interesting to see how the design language has evolved over the years, several decades onwards. In keeping with the theme of evolution, particularly in tool watches, we have a number of Daytonas here that I want to talk about, albeit not from the 60s and 70s. A couple of these that stand out to me are the Patrizzi dial Zenith Daytona here. It's got this black dial with a really warm orangey patina to the subdials. And in contrast, you have here a 6-digit John Mayer Daytona, yellow gold, bright green dial with some red hints. I think it gives you that contrast between tool watch and luxury. Now, moving on to Heuer. I mentioned earlier that we have a large collection of watches that have just been received from one of our good collectors, and the ones that jump out to me are these Hoya Carreras, equally arguably as iconic as the Rolexes that we've discussed. We have single, double and triple register chronographs. I love how each of these are diminutive by modern day standards in the 36mm case, but you have that deep matte black dial with a contrasting white subdial. Really feels like a tool watch, something that was used, bought for purpose back in the day. These examples are some of the best condition Hoyas that I've come across, and I look at all three of them and I really want to start building a collection of Hoyas myself. Speaking of condition, I have to make a big call out to this Heuer Monaco new old stock 1133B. It's a must for any Heuer collector. A watch that was made famous by Steve McQueen in the film Le Mans. This is a true new old stock, every bit as sharp as the day it was sold, and in the office we've been glaring at both the watch itself and the box that it came in, both in time warp condition. Really lovely to see. So that's this week's drop, a real theme of evolution in tool watches. I've never seen so many lovely vintage tool watches in subdial drop, a real favourite of mine. Hit the website, check them out, and I'll see you next week.